Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something really interesting, a super simple way to horizontally scale real-time Java web apps using the WebFirm framework, or as you'll hear me call it, wffweb.
So let's just jump right in. You know that classic headache developers get when they need to scale an app that has to maintain a constant, stateful connection with a user? Well, what if the standard way of handling that just wasn't necessary anymore?
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with that common scaling problem, then I'll introduce you to the wffweb framework, and finally we'll walk through the incredibly elegant and simple solution that version 12 brings to the table.
All right, first things first. To really get why the wffweb approach is so cool, we need to look at the traditional way of scaling apps that have to remember who you are from one click to the next.
Yeah, this is usually handled with something called sticky sessions or server affinity. Basically, the load balancer acts like a bouncer that says, hey, you've been here before, you have to go back to the exact same server you were talking to. It essentially glues you to one machine.
Now this works, right? But here's the catch. It adds a ton of operational overhead. You have to configure it, you have to maintain it, and think about it. If that one server you're stuck to suddenly goes down, poof, your session is gone. And that is exactly the kind of problem wffweb is designed to eliminate.
So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, let's talk about wffweb. You need to know that the documentation makes it clear this is a very specific tool for a very specific job.
So the framework is described as being for Java experts. It's all about building really sophisticated UIs right there in your Java code. It uses WebSockets to keep that real-time communication channel open, and it's totally independent. It doesn't care if you're using Tomcat, Jetty, or whatever.
And this is where you really see what it's built for. We're talking about the heavy hitters, single-page apps, super secure financial platforms, mission-critical business applications, basically anything that needs real-time data like trading platforms or live analytics dashboards.
Okay, now we're getting to the really cool part. This is the absolute game changer in wffweb version 12. This is where we totally throw that old way of thinking out the window.
You can actually see this evolution just by looking at the framework's history. Back in the day, with version 3, if you wanted to scale, you had to call tech support. But now, with version 12, that's all gone. They've put the power right back in the developer's hands to use standard, everyday tools.
And here it is, the money quote, right from the demo project's documentation. You can totally bypass the need for sticky sessions. The user's state is no longer tied to one single machine, and that changes everything.
So the big question is, if you're not using sticky sessions, how on earth do you scale? Well, you're going to love how ridiculously simple this is.
Seriously, according to the official sample projects, it's just 2 steps. 1, you deploy your application across as many different servers or nodes as you want. And 2, you just point a regular old load balancer at them.
And that's it. The whole point here is its beautiful simplicity. There are no weird framework-specific hoops to jump through. You just spin up more instances and balance the traffic between them. Done.
Of course, simple doesn't mean you can just ignore the details. The documentation points out a few really important technical notes to make sure this whole setup runs nice and smooth.
Okay, so let's run through these, because they're important. First, the website connections on every single one of your servers have to be open to the public so users can connect. For security, you can lock down normal HTTP access so only your load balancer can talk to them. And this last one, this is absolutely critical. You can't skip this. You must change the default secret string before you go live.
So let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway here? Basically, wffweb's architecture gives you a much simpler and more robust way to scale your real-time Java apps. You get rid of the complexity of sticky sessions, you make your app more reliable because any server can handle any user, and you seriously lower your stress and operational costs. And that kind of leaves us with this one big final question to think about. When you completely decouple the user from any single machine, what does that stateless by design philosophy really mean for how we build the next generation of resilient, distributed, real-time systems? Definitely something worth pondering.